Hello and welcome. This is SWE's LinkedIn workshop with the UCLA Career Center, and we're proud to have Denise here with us today to talk a little bit about LinkedIn strategies and virtual networking strategies. So Denise, if you want to take it away, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. So thank you, Layla, for reaching out and coordinating all of this. So my name is Denise Hapton. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm a career engagement educator at the UCLA Career Center, specifically the liaison to the School of Engineering. So I'm here and happy to help with anything. But tonight we'll be talking about LinkedIn and virtual networking, especially during these times. So I do want to let you all know that employers are adapting during this time. They're definitely taking a much more virtual approach than they have before. We just had a recruiter present last week, and they shared just how much they're using. So these different features. So when it comes to your handshake profile, make sure you fill it out completely, because that's how they use filters to find you and reach out to you and let them know that they have certain opportunities. Or on your LinkedIn profile, do the same thing when it comes to like your job interests, the job type, the location. Those are things that help them with narrowing down how to find you, especially when they can't come to campus. So they are still as interested in connecting with you as you are interested in connecting with them. It just might be a little bit different now. So networking, and why is it important? So with networking, it doesn't have to be, that formal event where you shake all the hands and meet all these formal people. It actually, is in this Zoom room right now. All of these people in this room right now are people that you can network with. They are connected to people who are connected to people who can connect you to people. So take advantage and connect with everyone around you right now, your classmates, your professors, and I'll get back into that again. But the reason why we network is because, 70 to 80% of people who are hired knew someone at the company. I myself got my position today from an informational interview. And we will talk about what those are a little bit later. And then I guess 35% of professionals said that a casual conversation on LinkedIn messaging led to a new opportunity. So that's why I want to show you how LinkedIn specifically can be a really great vehicle for virtual networking. So like I mentioned, who can you network with? Anybody around you, your family, your friends, your classmates, your professors especially have an extra great pulse on like alums and where they are today. And so by connecting to your professors, you'll have access to their connections. So your professors, TAs, PIs, definitely connect with them on LinkedIn also, and they will help expose you to even more network opportunities. So with LinkedIn specifically, the way that you can leverage your network here is by connecting with people. It's like the professional social media. So of course, with that being the professional social media, there's a different way to approach it, but it's still definitely the way for you to connect with people, build new relationships, learn about new topics, get involved in groups or follow certain hashtags. It's still very similar in that sense, just very career oriented. You're able to, research career paths, evaluate your options. There's job boards too, where you can apply for jobs. You can, of course, find a mentor, connect with a mentor that you already have, who can give you professional advice. They've been in your shoes before, so what advice would they have for you now? You can learn relevant information on current trends in the industry. So that's where, following those hashtags can come in handy. Following recruiters can come in handy. You don't necessarily have to connect with them. Just following them will put it on your feed so that you can, stay up to date on those topics. And of course, showcasing your personal brand. And, that means something different to everyone. And I know that everyone has their different approaches to it, and there's no wrong way, but be your authentic, sincere self, and that will get you the farthest. I always say I don't necessarily have the biggest network, but I have a very strong network. And that's what I hope for all of you. It's not necessarily about the number, it's about the quality of your connections and who they can connect you to, what you're able to do from those connections, what you're able to learn. And so that's definitely what I want to help you with today. So in the chat, or we can also do reactions. Have you used LinkedIn? So like thumbs up if you have. Okay, so majority of you have, and some haven't quite yet. Okay, so I'll save this part for the breakout sessions, right, Layla? But we'll go over how to build a profile if you haven't built yours yet. And I'll share this worksheet that you see on the left-hand side. I'll share that with Layla, who can share it with all of you also, to help you with building your profile itself. But we'll keep that for the breakout session part. But just so you know, for helping you, catch their eye. Your headline is the first thing that they'll see under your name. So think of, what do you want to have your headline say? Mine right now says my position, because I want people to connect with me to know that we can, on a professional level, other UCs reach out to me to compare notes. Faculty reach out to me because they know that I'm the liaison to the School of Engineering. And so for you, what position do you want to be, or what are you right now? What's your major? What are your goals? What skills do you have? These are different things that you can put in your header, and you want to use those keywords that are industry specific, catch those eyes, and really show your value and also your goals of like, why should they consider you? And again, we'll go into this a little bit more in depth in the breakout session, but your LinkedIn summary is definitely something that you might want to consider, just for those of you who maybe do have a LinkedIn but don't have a summary. I do just want to share with you that this is your opportunity to kind of share your story, your values, motivations, personality, but also your opportunity to describe what your talents are, what your technical skills are, which for engineering is definitely what they'll be looking for. I know that Layla asked me about assessments of your skills, and I asked a recruiter for you too. And they said that if you have those skills, definitely put them on your LinkedIn. If an assessment helps show how good your skills are, go for it. But that's not necessarily the only way that you can show what skills you have. But they are definitely looking to see those skills. So you can, list them in your summary. You can list them on your profile with your project and your experiences. And you can take those assessments as well. I think they're fairly newer, so recruiters aren't necessarily like only using them, but they are a tool to help employers see what your skills are and where you land with those skills. Any questions so far? I just want to make sure, because I'm trying to go quick. And I'll give a second just in case there are questions. Feel free to raise your hand or anything like that. What are the assessments? So I guess this is fairly new. I had to do my own research. Layla is actually the one who brought it to my attention, that LinkedIn has assessments for technical skills, to kind of, it's almost like a badge on your profile, or like a certification that you passed the test, the assessment for that skill level. And I hadn't heard of it, and I had to check with a few colleagues. So I think it is fairly new, but it's a good way for employers to kind of see what those skills are that you have and how competent you are in them. But like I said, they're so new that they're not necessarily the main thing that they look for. And there are definitely other ways to illustrate your skills and the fact that you have them. Any other questions? Thank you for asking that.
I have a question, Denise. I was curious, how often should we be updating our LinkedIn?
As often as you do projects, I think that a lot of students don't realize that your class projects or your student org projects, those count as things that should be on your resume as well as on your LinkedIn profile, because they are more ways that illustrate how you've used your skills, what you know how to do, whether you worked with a team, you led a team, in engineering, all of those skills are really important. So update them as frequently as you are doing new things. Um, and the recruiter themselves, just last week, I love when recruiters say this because it's like you all believe us a little differently when Intel, for example, says it too. But she said, she's like, you have the skills. I just want to see how you use them. I don't care if it was an internship or during a project, especially at UCLA, your course curriculum is made to give you experience. So those course projects count as experiences that you can list on your profile, and they can illustrate those skills that you have. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have another
Any,
question too.
yeah, of course.
I've had some discussions with students, and I think there might be a little bit of a worry that if you post about like your internship or you post about something, it's kind of like you're bragging, and I've heard people like be kind of self-conscious of that because they don't want to seem like they're bragging. What would you kind of say to this mindset
And
dilemma?
you're referring to like literal posts, right?
Yeah, literal posts.
I've heard the opposite actually, in the sense that, especially if you tag the employer that you did your internship with and tag any mentors who helped you connect, things like that, it helps show it on more and more profiles that get you, get more attention towards your profile. So I think it's maybe like a personal thing. Like, I'll be honest, I'm definitely more shy on social media than others, so I don't post all the time. I actually rarely post, but I'm also not currently looking for an internship or a job. But it depends on who your audience is. What's your goal with this post? But also, I mean, we have certain experiential learning programs that encourage you to post about it on LinkedIn, tag the company that you engaged with, thank the recruiter who helped you get there, or the team project the team that you got to work with. I think it just gets your name out there a little bit more. And I don't know if you noticed that when you do that, there are people who see it or like it that haven't been on your page before. But if you feel like it's bragging, then there's nothing negative about not doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
I haven't heard an employer say anything negative about it. But speaking of posts too, when it comes to connecting with recruiters, first of all, of course, and we'll talk about messages too, but when you send a message to a recruiter, definitely, make it more personal, so that it stands out. But what I've also heard from recruiters is that they get so many messages that if you actually comment on a post of theirs, they're much more likely to actually see it. So engage with their posts, react to them, comment, agree, disagree, or create a conversation out of it. Those are other ways to get recruiters to see you and your profile other than just sending a message. So recruiters use that tool too. Any other questions?
I had a quick one, sorry. Just from your experience at the Career Center, what is like a misconception that people commonly have about LinkedIn that you've come across?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception, especially with upcoming graduating seniors, is I need to get a job or an internship or whichever, and I'm going to send in as many applications as I can, but then I'm not going to network at all. The biggest misconception is networking can probably get you farther than a large number of actual applications, because that warm contact, that warm connection can give you more opportunities and connect you to more opportunities than your actual application might. And it can help you get your application to the top of that pile versus, going through an applicant tracking system and just hoping that somebody, that your resume points out better than others. That's, I think, the biggest misconception, is that I don't need to use it yet. And as an undergrad myself, I wish that I leveraged it a lot more, and I didn't really learn to appreciate it as much until after. Thankfully, I had quite a strong network that I could reach out to even without LinkedIn. But networking in general, I think, has the misconception of it's too formal, and it can definitely be very intimidating. I myself was very intimidated by it too, but it can get you a lot farther than sending in 50 applications.
Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question. I know you said it's like a professional social media. So like what would be like something acceptable that I can like post but would still be like professional?
So common things that you can post. If you've had an internship or a project, if you won an award, and you were with a certain student org, if you presented at a conference or a poster session, articles that you find interesting, definitely try to tag and hashtag things so that they come up in relevant news feeds. But a lot of common posts that I see are definitely, to celebrate your professional accomplishments. Those are the type of things that I would recommend. I definitely see people getting political on LinkedIn also. And I think that's a personal choice. I personally try to keep it more to my profession itself, but it depends on your industry and what it is that you are using this platform for. And so those are the type of things that I would definitely encourage you to post, and be proud of yourself. It's funny that Annie brought up like bragging, because it's also depending on the industry that you're in, they also encourage you to brag about yourself. And so, that's the difference in different industries. But yeah, that's what you would post about, is accomplishments or gratitude, anything you find interesting, things like that. I personally really like going through LinkedIn to learn new things. There are great articles on there. There are great, you can sign up for newsletters to be in touch on certain things. You get these alerts about staying up on the latest information, or this person that you follow, their post has gotten a lot of engagement, so maybe you would want to read it. I feel like there's a lot to absorb from LinkedIn too. Any other questions? Okay. So the number one thing that I recommend that students do after, of course, creating your profile, is use your LinkedIn to conduct informational interviews. These are much less intimidating, and just think of it as a conversation that you want to have with someone who's in a role that you wish to be in, or works for a company that you hope to work for, who's been in your shoes before. These are informal conversations. You reach out, you let them know that you're interested in becoming an electrical engineer at this and this company, and you would love to learn about their path and how they got to where they are. What advice would they have for you? What are certain trends that they're seeing? What are different skills that you may want to expand on? This is the insider knowledge on the industry, and maybe even the position that you are hoping to enter. So this is a great opportunity for you to, I personally recommend that you start with Bruins. The Bruin network is a very strong network, and they definitely want to help each other out. And so there are definitely ways that you can use LinkedIn to specifically find Bruins, either within a certain company or within a certain industry, or both, obviously. So reaching out for informational interviews, again, that's how I got my job. I reached out to someone who's now my colleague about a completely different position, just to learn a little bit about them. And we connected, and they learned more about me and my qualifications. And then we met months later, and they're like, hey, we have this position opening up, and you're definitely qualified and you might be interested. I'll let you know when it posts. And then, so I knew before the position even posted. And then I submitted my application and they were able to let their supervisor know. And, from there, I took it, of course, but having somebody vouch for me definitely helped get it into the right hands. So informational interviews can also help you land a job. Don't go into it assuming that it's going to give you a job. Build the relationship and lead towards that. And that's why this is a lot more valuable than just submitting applications all the time. Okay. This is also a really great way for you to research the industry, expose yourself to maybe some information that you're not familiar with, or if you are thinking of changing what you want to major in or what you want to pursue, or you learned about something that you've never known about before. This is a great way for you to explore those options, low stakes, high reward, to expose yourself a little bit more to it and make sure it's a good fit for you. Any questions about informational interviews? Okay. So again, we'll go into this, or maybe I'll keep this for the recording, but just a sample of how you can reach out to alums, obviously on LinkedIn, for those of you who may or may not know, and depending on time, because I know you all want to get into breakout rooms too. When you find someone on LinkedIn, you can press connect and always add a note. It literally looks different when it shows up in their notifications if you added a note. And the note is going to be much shorter than this. And so I typically recommend bringing up UCLA within the first 5 words. Mention hi, I'm a current UCLA junior studying mechanical engineering and would really love to learn a little bit more about how you ended up in your position. Would you be willing to chat? They may or may not respond. You're much more likely to hear back from them if you add a note. And then some like to chat through LinkedIn. Some will set up a time to talk with you. Sometimes they're willing to look at your resume and your application materials and give you some feedback. Sometimes they're able to let you know, hey, this internship might be coming up. It's not advertised, but keep an eye out. But always add a note. Otherwise, they're just going to look at it and be like, who is this random person? Okay. And emphasize that you're not looking for a job, because they get hammered for people who want jobs all the time. And I've also read that, especially during COVID-19, acknowledging that someone is busy and that asking when you have time, would you possibly be willing to chat, owning the fact that they have a lot going on right now. Those response rates are much higher because they appreciate that you acknowledge they have a lot going on. So then they want to help you more. Where if you assume that they're free and available to you, you may not hear from them as well. So those are more fun tidbits that you can learn by being on LinkedIn. They tell you who gets more responses. So these are some questions that you can ask, and we also have them in our career guide. My favorite is kind of what advice do you wish you got when you were in my shoes? But you can also ask about how did you get started? What is your typical day like? What educational background do I need to have? Oftentimes for engineering, you don't need to get your master's, but maybe sometimes you do. What are entry-level jobs and how can you get them versus how do you climb up the career ladder? There are a lot of different questions that you can ask. And I find that some students connect with people and then they'd let me know that they didn't quite get the information that they were hoping for, but they didn't ask the questions so that they would get that information. So definitely prepare your questions in advance to help you with building that conversation. You'd be surprised how much people like to talk about themselves. They are more than happy to let you know. Okay, so on your LinkedIn, the way that you can increase your visibility is I would recommend identifying those influencers and industry leaders. And then you'll see who they're following or who they're interacting with. So whether it be the UCLA recruiter for a certain company or the head of the company themselves, notice what they're posting. A lot of them are posting about lately, what are they looking for in a candidate? Especially, you know, for college students, how to stand out, or what tricky question might they ask you and what are they looking for when they're asking you that question. They post those on their LinkedIn because they want you to know what they're looking for. So follow those people. You don't have to connect with them, but you can follow them so that they come up on your newsfeed. So with that, like I mentioned, recruiters really post a lot of tips, whether it be like, save your resume as your first name and your last name, because on your laptop, the document labeled resume might be the only resume on your computer, but on theirs, it's the 55th resume that they have. You know, tips like that, the recruiters are sharing on how to make it easier for them, so then they want to continue engaging with you. Also, a tip that the recruiter last week shared is they engage with UCLA at least once a quarter. And especially when we're back on campus, they're on campus at least once a quarter. So if you connected with a recruiter during an event, reach out to them, say, it was a pleasure meeting you during this event. Thank you so much for all the information that you shared. And then the next quarter, when the quarter begins, she's like, reach out to me again and let me know, hey, are you back on campus this quarter? I would love to attend more of your programs, or reconnect with you, or have coffee. The more they see you, it's literally a social psychology fact. The more people see you, the more they like you, and the more recognizable you are. And so this was a tip straight from a recruiter themselves, that she's like, I'm at UCLA all the time. Reach out to me and let's engage multiple times. But also, if there's a certain company that you want to work for, try to go to every event that they have, not just one, because then you'll get to meet multiple recruiters, and the more people who can vouch for you, the better. And so this counts for virtual networking too. Like you all had us do at the beginning of the meeting, turning on your camera makes a difference, because the recruiter gets to see your face and your name and not just a black box. So that's how you can engage differently on Zoom versus in person. Make yourself seen, so that they can engage with you and they remember you. Okay. And then this is a little sample message that you can put on LinkedIn. And definitely for Handshake 2, update your job preferences, look at job board alerts. Your profile will help draw people towards your profile. What you put in your profile will help draw them towards you. I know that we ran a little over because we had some questions and things like that. So is there a specific calendar to see when there are events with recruiters? Yes. So when you go on Handshake and you go under the events tab, those are events that are from the Career Center, but also from employers. And employers are still looking to connect with you. And so they will post events either about like info sessions about what internships they're offering, but also they'll post tips about like resume, or so they're really, you know, wanting to show where they stand with diversity, equity, and inclusion. They want to help women in the field, you know, so they'll have a lot of targeted programs. And so you can find those under the events tab on Handshake, and keep an eye out. I believe you can set an alert for a specific employer so that when they post something new, you can see. Keep an eye out for when they're around. I know we're also having like the ESUC ILC networking night. There will be employers there. I know that my colleague Adrian was able to get at least 3. So there are different ways to engage with employers, and on their profile, oftentimes they'll say where they're going to be. They'll help promote their own programs. So keep an eye out on that. And then I do get a question a lot about how do you maintain these relationships and not come off fake. So that's where you could, you know, reach out once a quarter, or if there's a holiday, wish them a happy holiday. If you see an article that reminds you of them, or if they post an article, you can comment on it. Definitely, you know, thank them for any advice that they shared, any progress you were able to make due to the advice that they shared. You know, don't just go cold. There are little ways that you can keep a contact. and then that's it. I can, tell you about the Career Center, but I know that we need to go to breakout rooms now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so, so much. It's totally okay that you went over. That was a lot of great information. I'm gonna